Hello and welcome to this instalment of Talkin Trim. I'm Jonathon Skinner and today we're looking at some seat covers for the Triumph TR6 range. Now the TR6s from 1969 to 1976 had 5 different versions of seats. For the American market, the North American market, these ones at the front here were used sort of 1969, 1970, and they were used on any car that had the chassis number below 50,000 with CC in front of it. They're often referred to as the tipping or tilting or folding headrest versions for the obvious reason. On the backrest here, you actually had this separate headrest unit that was sort of trimmed in there, and that kind of folded forward if you needed it to. Obviously not when you're driving, you wouldn't be able to drive it with it folded forward. So that's commonly what it was referred to. They're a very odd looking seat, and thankfully Triumph did update that pattern and design, and they didn't put it on too many cars before they updated to this version here, which the chassis number for this one was CC at the beginning and then any number above 50,000. Obviously, we always say take with a pinch of salt because they weren't exactly the most consistent production line, so you're bound to have a crossover between those elements of things. And these seat covers here are referred to as fixed headrests. So they're very similar design in terms of they had this kind of tall protruding headrest when it was all in the car, but they're actually fully integrated into it and they just sat there the whole time. They did not tilt or fold forward like these ones. So yeah, and these ones here were sort of 1970 to 1972. Then after that, you come across the much more commonly seen TR6 seat, the one that most people would kind of think of when you mention the TR6 seat, which are these ones here, which had the separate stalk headrests, as seen in this Bill Piggott book here. So those ones were after these versions here, and they kind of catered to all of the world market, not just the North American market, where these ones here commonly were only ever really used for the North American market. I believe it's something to do with some laws that they introduced about car safety with headrest restraints and things like that. But yeah, not 100% sure on that one. Anyway, what we've got here, I thought I'd take the opportunity with these seats here because we happen to have both versions of these seats going through at the same time, and they happen to have followed a fairly similar spec. Both of them are full leather. There is no vinyl on these seats whatsoever. Everything is leather apart from the piping, which is leather cloth, which is the OEM spec for a lot of cars of this era, and by far and away the most suitable material to use for piping. Please do check out our blog and other videos that go into details of those sorts of materials, because a lot of other people in the industry take shortcuts and use things like vinyl, which isn't particularly suitable for piping. But where colours allow, we always use leather cloth for our piping, which is about sort of 90 to 95% of our colours. But everything else is leather. There is no vinyl on these whatsoever. Now, when it comes to seat covers, we can do a 3-tier option. At one end of the spectrum, you've got vinyl, Ambla, as it's commonly referred to way back when. And we can do those, obviously, where everything is vinyl, and that's what the majority of the TR6s would have left the factory with. Then in the middle, you've got what we refer to as leather faced. Other people in the industry refer to it as leather, and that's when the bits that touch your body, i.e. sort of all of this top section here, pleated panels, side panels here, would be leather, but then the surrounds here and the retainer here, they would be vinyl. Same sort of concept on the back here. All of this would be leather here, but then these would be vinyl. These back bits here would be vinyl, as well as with these bits here. So that's what we refer to as leather faced, i.e. the facings of the seats are leather. Like I say, other people in the industry refer to that as leather, which can be somewhat confusing and should not be confused with what we refer to as full leather, which is what these seats are, where there are no vinyl bits whatsoever for them. So both of these kits have been done in full leather, which is not OEM spec. This is very much a bespoke special order upgrade kits. And both of them actually have gone for our embossed leather pleats. So as I'm sure you guys are aware, TR6s, originally they mostly left with vinyl Ambla seats, and when they did, they had an embossed pattern on the pleats. You can see it's like a diamond with, actually had originally a very small pin prick in the middle, but we just indent the middle to create that pin prick effect there. It doesn't actually perforate it. I can explain exactly why. There's an interesting backstory that my father actually knows from the original factory production line with all of that, but that's a story for another day. But yeah, so originally it had this pattern on the vinyl Ambla seats as standard from the factory. If the excuse me, if the car left with leather face seats, or leather as Triumph would refer to it, which was an option from the factory, then the pleats would have been plain. So you wouldn't got any pattern on it. It would have just been sort of plain leather like that going across. Obviously, they still would have pleated, but the inside of the pleat there would not have a pattern on it. What we can offer, and we sell a lot of kits like this these days for the TRs, so TR5s, TR250s and TR6s, they all featured this kind of pattern on the vinyl seats. But a lot of people do like this upgrade kit for the leather-faced or full leather kits. It is an additional surcharge on top of the leather-faced or full leather price, but do contact us about it, and it's pretty cool. It doesn't mimic it exactly by any means, and we're not trying to. It's a nod, so it's a nod to the original fact that there was a pattern on the seat, so just bear that in mind. Always an option. Yeah, and both of these guys have gone for that on here, which just thought it was quite a unique opportunity to get the North American CC seat covers together, showing you the differences between them, but also the fact they both went for full leather and both went for the embossed pattern. I'm not going to go into too many details about each seat cover, but I will give a nice brief overview. Please do check out the links below, because there will be other videos showing more in-depth videos of those specific seat covers. In fact, we've got a set of these ones trimmed up as well, which look really, really nice. So be sure to check that out. While I'm on that note, always worth checking out the blog handbook area of our website, as that has lots of useful information about us as a business, how we function, idiosyncrasies, should we say, of the way we do business and why we've got the reputation for making the best kits in the world, but also some nice information about the cars, the materials, things like that. It's hopefully a growing resource of education with these sorts of things. I've tried to drain as much information out of my father's head and try and get it down on paper, or at least on digital paper on the website. So just be sure to check that out, because the worst mistake and biggest mistake you could make is to assume that all interior trim manufacturers work to the same standards and offer the same kits. After the name, that's where it ends. Other people offer TR6 seat covers. That's where the similarities end. The pattern making element of things, the way they're put together and constructed, their understanding of the parts and how they're fitted is nowhere near the levels that we offer, and I think most people in the industry would attest to that. So just bear that in mind. We want to make sure that people are fully informed as to what they're getting into before we start making anything, and this is why I've been doing the YouTube video, to really kind of showcase our kits and our products and bring that to you. Obviously, it'd be great if people could come and visit us the whole time and really see the quality and workmanship in the flesh, but the next best thing are videos. That's why our website and our YouTube channel has got loads of videos on it, but we also have hundreds of photos on there, which a lot of other companies don't have. So just bear that in mind. Anyway, let's start with these seats here. So these have been done in cinnamon. Cinnamon's a unique colour. Cinnamon's an antiqued colour, so it's got that kind of mottled black effect in it. It's almost like a stain, like if you got some coffee and poured it over some white paper and let it kind of dry, it kind of has that strange kind of mottled black effect all over it. So it's a rather unique colour. In terms of the pricing spectrum, that falls into the smooth category on our website, but it is a very unique colour and only available in a couple of shades, cinnamon being one of them. Obviously the excuse me, the covers themselves, genuine tuck and roll pleats. It has all the elements of scrim sewn into them, which are used obviously to assist in the trimming process. The early seats here had a unique retainer, which is a sewn loop, which is not something that a lot of other manufacturers actually even acknowledge. And just FYI, we can supply the kind of coiled spring that goes from left to right in there and actually retains the seat in that position. But that was fairly unique to the early TR6s. They did use it as well on the TR5s, TR250s and the TR4As and some of the late TR4s. But when it got to this TR6, they stopped using it. So just bear that in mind. We do, that's those sorts of details, and even that bit there is leather. But yeah, we can supply the spring there. Obviously the backrest here, pleats, so then it goes plain. No pleats there, which is where the headrest tucks in, and then you had this rather unique and odd looking headrest, which effectively when it's in the cars like that. But that's trimmed completely separately. Again, genuine tuck and roll pleats. It has the scrim section in there, which the scrim kind of gets tucked in between the foam and anchored down to the framework element of things. They're very odd looking things, and real pain to trim, those headrests. They're very tight fitting. You really have to keep an eye on the alignment of the piping as you go around as well. We see a lot of issues with that during the trimming process, so just make either yourself, if you're doing it, or your trimmer aware of that. You really have to keep an eye on it during the trimming process. Yeah, so that effectively makes up that element there. All the way onto the back, the pleats obviously stop there, and then it goes plain around the top there. You get the backrest panels here. Both of these versions of seats have backrest panels. They are different though. That's, I'm sure, slightly longer than that one. That or the other way around, but I'm sure that one's slightly longer. Pre-drilled fixing holes you had down the left and right sides, the normal fixings, and at the top you had that rather unique sort of U-S clip. You don't often, well, they're often broken or lost, and I don't think anyone supplies them anymore, but we do have a workaround on that, so if you are in that position, do let us know. But that basically was the panel that goes on the very back section here of the cover. And then you get some pre-cut pieces of material, in this case leather, because the whole kit's leather, and that covers up a bit of a hardware panel section there, that when the headrest kind of folds forward, something's exposed there, which basically that material is there to cover. So that's a very brief overview of the early style pre 50,000 cc chassis numbers, whereas this is the later one. So this is fixed headrest, as we refer to it. As you can see, the headrest is already integrated into it. The cushions are very similar. They're not exactly the same, but to glance at, they kind of look the same. This chap has gone for full leather. He's gone for black smooth. Obviously, we can offer grained in most colours as well, so see our website for details. You have, as per these ones over here, you had scrim sewn into the side channels there and the front there, as well as, you can get to it one-handed, the surround. So that's going all the way around there. You can see. And that's for attaching to the foams. Even though the TR6s, the cushions kind of follow the same mantra, but the backrests are quite different. But the overall trimming concept in terms of scrims and where you pull down through foams and anchor it is quite similar. Just bear that in mind. But yeah, that's got all of that there. Obviously, the retainer's a flat one because it moved away from having that loop spring in the middle of it. Backrest, bit of an odd one. It's kind of done in three pieces. So you have the main section there, which has a headrest integrated into it. Genuine tuck and roll pleats as ever. Scrim that gets pulled through and round. And then you had these odd kind of wings, I guess, which basically, when they're trimmed, they come up and make the side bolster. And when everything's together, obviously, it's all scrunched together, and it kind of looks like it's all one part of the seat. But in fact, you could put your hand down the side of the pleated panel in between the side bolster and the seat. And that's just the way they were designed. They were a very odd seat. And do refer to our video of this particular seat fully trimmed up, because I do go into details on that one there. Very odd design, over-engineered, but hey-ho. That's the lay of the land at that point. So yeah, you get these sewn. Again, these are all leather. You get extra bits of piping at the top here, most of which is lost during the trim process, but it does give you something to grab onto. And like I say, it's leather cloth. It's got the slits already in it, which makes it nice and easy to bend around with no creases, etc. So again, it's the fact that we do the same things day in, day out. We've really refined our processes and made sure that we offer the best product, even down to elements of piping. And be sure to check out, I'm doing a video on the differences on the pipings, because we have about 4 different versions of piping depending on what seats or parts that we're making, which again just shows the level of commitment that we're willing to go to with these sorts of things. Backrest panels, like I say, very similar but slightly different size for these ones here, but same concept, exactly the same fixings again. And then for this CP above 50,000, the fixed headrest version, you also had these hardboard panels, and these sit down in these areas here, the seat mechanisms. Now, unfortunately, the Bill Piggott book doesn't actually have these seats in them, but just to kind of show you, I'm talking about that area there, down by the side seat mechanisms. They were very similar on that style of seat, actually. So they sit in there, and what you get is this hardboard panel here, pre-drilled fixing holes for these to get attached onto. These are kind of spacers, I guess. Sometimes you'll only need 1 per panel, sometimes you'll need 2, depends on the car and how the trimming process is going. And then they had a little metal panel that was kind of stepped, that gets sort of attached to the top of it. We don't supply that metal panel, but we do supply those hardboard panels as standard there. So yeah, that's the overview of those seats. That's what I do. Take the opportunity to excuse me, give you a brief run over of those particular versions while I had both of them being made at the same time. Hope you found it useful. Thanks for tuning in. Please remember to like, subscribe and share with other classic car enthusiasts, and be sure to check us out next time. Thank you.